Hey everybody, Chef Eric Eisenbud here, the Grateful Chef, coming live from our beautiful New Jersey winter weather. Thought I had a great idea that since I am going to be making dry-aged beef stock, why not do a Cook with Chef Eric event for the Steak Ager family. This is also going on my Facebook group, The Grateful Chef with Eric Eisenbud. And I thought we would just have kind of a laid-back chat while we're cooking. Hopefully you guys clicked on the link from the invite or from the event and saw the description and the list of things that you kind of really need to have ready to do this. So I'm going to ask, as you guys join in, to just indicate whether or not you are cooking along or if you're just viewing for a future, pot of dry-aged beef stock. That would be good to know if we got people cooking along, because that will determine the speed at which I go. This is not a difficult recipe. It is very easy, and it's like kind of kills a couple of birds with one stone. That's what we like. Not only does this get us amazing dry-aged beef stock that you use just like you would use any other stock. If you have a recipe that calls for beef stock, even if it calls for chicken stock, you want to add that dry-aged beef flavor to it, you got the stock. You can also then cook that stock down and bring it down to a dry-aged beef demi-glaze, which is basically just reducing the stock down till it gets very gelatinous into like a syrupy consistency. That's awesome. The other thing it does is it initiates a musgo. What's a musgo? I'll show you what a musgo is.
You want me to come over there, or are you bringing it
No,
over?
I'm bringing it over. Everything in this vegetable drawer must go. We can use this as an opportunity to use some of the produce that we might have in our vegetable bins that are lacking in like freshness, maybe, like I got some scallions here, I got some scallion ends, some of them don't look too pretty, I'll pick through this. So you're basically going to go shopping in your vegetable drawer pretty much. Now there are some things that you are not going to want to put in this. Do we have people chiming in?
Everybody's pretty much just watching at this point.
Okay, that's great, that's perfectly fine. So let's go through my vegetable drawer and see what we got here. And I'm not going to rush through this. I'm going to kind of take our time. Let's talk about what we've got. All right, so like I said, I've got some scallions here. I will cut off any parts that are super nasty, but we'll get those ready. Oh, don't forget these ends. And certainly don't forget to take the rubber bands off. They do not make for good beef stock. What else do I have? I have a couple of bok choy that won't add a lot of flavor, but I might as well use them. I think I have another one. Oh, yeah, here we go. Another one in here. So I got some bok choy that we'll definitely use. I've got some celery, and I've got some celery with celery leaves. If you guys are cutting these off and throwing them away, don't. These have so much flavor, not necessarily exactly like the celery itself. There's a little bit more aromatic flavor. So you could use this where you use parsley. You can actually put these in a salad. Really good. A little bit bitter, but there are bitter lettuces. So I'm going to use some celery, and I'm going to use some of the celery leaves. I've got some carrots. Look at that, from my Misfits Market box. So here's some more scallions. Those will go in. I have, ooh, nice. I have the bottoms of some leeks. We are definitely going to use those. Leeks, perfect for this. Got some pieces already cut up. Might as well use it all. Let's see, some things that I have that I won't use. I'm not going to put Brussels sprouts in the stock. I don't think that would taste good. I also have some broccolini, or purple broccoli. Probably not putting that in. It's too strong of a flavor. I do have some more carrots over here. So I'm going to do maybe 2. Yeah, and you know these carrots are kind of ready to be put into a stock. They're kind of spongy a little bit, and I found some more leeks. So I might not use all of the quantity that I have here, but I'll use a fair amount. More leek leaves. What is in this mystery package? Even more scallions. Scallions are good.
I'm gonna guess most people don't have your vegetable drawer.
Maybe. I'm sure they have some things in here.
Okay, before I met you, I had vodka in the freezer, and
That was it.
that was it.
So I got some peppers here. I'm not going to use them. And I'm going to limit the amount of carrots because what I don't want is to have a too sweet of a stock. All right? So you just got to be a little bit selective. We're going to clean some of these vegetables up, and we're going to go from there. This guy can go back in. I got room in the vegetable drawer for more things.
Fantastic.
Fantastic. All right, so I'm going to start by...
I have a question. So
Yes.
that was everything from the vegetable drawer.
Right.
What about our vegetable bowl that you got up here?
All right, so that's a good question. So vegetable bowl. I have onions. I have garlic. So I've got like 3 very small heads of garlic. I'm putting them all in. Oh, I got 4. You know what? I'll save this one just in case I need to make something with garlic. I have a little shallot here. I'll put that in. I'm going to put some onion. I'm going to put these 2 onions in there. What else? You could put red onion in there. I have red onion. You could do that. I'm not going to put squash or potatoes or avocados in there. Yeah, so I'm pretty much done with our bowl. Oh, I'm going to give it over to Lynn. Oh, it's heavy. Now we've got other things we're going to put in, some aromatics. I always put in, a small handful of whole peppercorns. And I've got some parsley. Actually, this is parsley and cilantro. I'm not putting cilantro in, but I'm going to put some parsley and I'm going to, with the stems and everything. That's going to be awesome. Oh, and I also had some dried shiitake mushrooms, throwing those in. So let's do a little prep of our vegetables. Typically, well, with the carrots, they got dirt on the outside. So you can either peel them or just wash them off. I think I'm just going to give them a quick rinse, like that. I just want to get the dirt off of them. That's all. You don't have to be too particular. I just don't want that dirt in my stock.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. And we're going to cut them, but we don't have to get too crazy about how we're going to cut them. Let's cut the ends off. Now, let's talk about the pot itself, all right? So you're going to choose a pot that's big enough to hold your pellicle, big enough to hold all the vegetables, and big enough to hold enough water to cover all that stuff. So I've got my big pot here, and if Lynn will come over here to the stove just for 1 second, because I'm going to show you one of those the benefits we talked about, the third benefit. So what I did was, and I mentioned in the directions, to roast your pellicle. So I put the pellicle that I had on this roasting pan, in the sheet pan, blasted it in like a 450 degree oven just to bring out some of the color. My artifact, it gets a little caramelized. It makes for a better tasting stock, and it also makes for a better colored stock. And so the added benefit of doing this, it also renders out the fat that some of these pieces have on them. So I have put this on the lean, so all my fat will drain here. What is...
Just it glows a little bit, so...
Yeah, I'm going to turn this off. Hold on.
Yep.
So what is rendered beef fat? It's tallow. So here, I've got a nice puddle, we'll call it a puddle, of dry aged beef tallow. So you get 2 things. That's another added benefit of roasting. Now, if you only have a small amount of pellicle, you can absolutely put a little tallow or a little bit of oil in the bottom of your stock pot, crank the heat, put your pellicle in there and toast it up in the pot. But I had a lot, I had enough to do it on a sheet tray, so that's what I did. I am going to, and what I'm doing, I'll heat this up just so it melts a little bit, but I want to take some because I'm going to be toasting up the vegetables a little bit. So I'm going to take some of this tallow. Not too much because we don't want an oily stock. And I'm going to toast up the vegetables once we have them ready. And then after I do that, we'll put this pellicle in there. All right. Let's put this on very low just to melt that fat. And let's go back to the cutting board.
Great question from Jared Rose.
Yes.
What if you put that in the smoker to add a little more flavor?
I wouldn't. Well, I guess you could. I mean, it depends on how much you like smoke. I feel like that if you just have the dry aged flavor, it's more versatile because there are some dishes you might cook that you don't want the smoke flavor, right? So
can you add smoke later if you want it?
No.
Okay.
I mean, no. So I mean, like I said, if you have a specific dish that you want that smoke flavor, totally do it. But for me, I don't want everything that I make with this beef stock to have that smoky flavor. So for more versatility, I would say not to do it.
Other than soups, what do you use beef stock for?
So we know that we can grind it for hamburger. So if you want the smoky burgers, definitely smoke it, grind it, add it to fresh. You know.
How about the beef stock? What do you use beef stock for?
I use beef stock for soups, for sauces, and you do a nice pan sauce. You know, on like a steak, you want to make a mushroom sauce and emulate the dry aged flavor in the steak. Absolutely do that. What else do I use it for? Sometimes if the recipe calls for chicken stock, I'll use the beef stock because I think it'll go with the recipe. So yeah, there's a lot you can do with it.
And another great question from Jared Rose: how long do you cook the stock for? So once you're in, how do you?
Well, we'll talk about that, but I have gone overnight. You know, honestly, depends on when you started. I've done 12 hours. You can do 8 hours. You can do 6 hours. The idea is we're going to let it come to a simmer. One thing, you know, stock 101, you don't really want to have it boil because then you end up with a kind of a cloudier stock. So you want to bring it just to a boil and then turn it to a simmer and just let it bubble. So listen, I'll do it and I'll come and I will taste both the broth, so the water at that point, and I will also taste some of the pellicle. It is completely rehydrated. And I'll do this even if I'm making chicken stock. I'm going to taste that chicken to make sure that I don't taste the chicken when I eat the piece of meat because I want all that flavor to go into the water. So
one more question.
One more question.
It was back to when you were looking at the tallow.
Yes.
I'm flipping between 6 pages,
Okay.
so I just got to this one. So Gretchen Pfeiffer just asked, do you normally pull off the fat for tallow instead? So with this, I know that you had the remnants of fat. So
you can do that when you refrigerate it and then pull the fat off. But if you really want pure tallow, I'm gonna. It's a separate process. When I trim my dry aged steaks, I will separate the chunks of fat from the meat, and then I will make sure when I go to make tallow that none of that fat has any meat on it, because that'll add an impurity to your tallow. And then just let that slowly render out, and this way you get that liquid gold, where there's no contamination, we'll call it, from meat, and there's no bits in it, no black specks. It's pure white tallow. So I'm going to heat this tallow up again and run it through a piece of cheesecloth through a little strainer, and hopefully get none of those specks. So this is not the typical way to make tallow. All right, so let me get to some of these carrots. So we're going to cut these up. Now, the bigger the piece, the more air pockets there are going to be in between. So you don't have to dice it or anything, but I am, because all this is going to be strained out, I am going to cut this into pieces. I'm not going to put the you know, put them in whole. You know what I'm saying? Onion, I'm going to quarter it. Maybe I'll cut those quarters in half because you don't want too many air pockets. You see how that'll sit in the pot and there's not a whole lot of air pockets behind it. So the onions, real easy. You can cut that root off because that is a source of some dirt. You don't want that. I'm just going to cut it, leaving the peels on. Just like that.
Do you know if the peels add any flavor?
Peels don't add any flavor, but we're straining them out, so it doesn't matter. Let's check our tallow. It is melted. I'm going to keep that down on a simmer. Get some vegetables ready. Let's do another onion. You don't need all that. So now this is a bigger onion, so maybe I'll cut this one into thirds.
And as you're cutting, Jeff Show Off asked, what about a pressure cooker, like an Instant Pot?
I have absolutely no experience with that, but I am pretty sure you could do this in a pressure cooker, you know, and probably take less, because from what I understand, everything takes less time. Heads of garlic, I'm just cutting them in half. Again, doesn't matter if they fall off or fall apart. You can also cut this root off if you want, or just wash it off, or leave it on.
My last experience with a pressure cooker is when I was a little kid, and my mom used a pressure cooker.
Yep.
And it exploded, and then we had tomato sauce.
I think everybody has that story.
All over the house.
Okay, shallot, same thing. So lots of aromatics, onions, carrots. Let's go to our leeks. I've got a nice piece of leek here. Again, not super fresh. I will cut that off, throw that away, and I am going to simply cut this in half just to make sure that there's no dirt in there. Right, no dirt. And then this is just going to get cut. Doesn't take up a lot of room. Thirds. These scallions, the bottoms look okay. I'm going to cut these tops off. I'm going to cut these roots off best I can. And again, we're not making a particular dish, so we don't have to be too particular on how we cut our vegetables. Another leek. Checking for dirt. It's good.
Thanks for checking for dirt.
So we are getting a nice pile of aromatics. These leeks, the leek leaves, no problem. Celery. I'm going to take off. It's really especially good for some of these smaller outer stalks because they're harder to dice because they're so small. So again, I'm cutting it. This has a little dirt on the end. We're going to rinse. Just like that. All right. Beautiful. All right. These leeks I don't need. I have enough. Just for laughs and giggles, I will trim some of this yucky stuff off. And again, this isn't going to add much flavor, but I have them. Rather than throw them away in 3 days, I figure I'll use it. It's kind of soft, so there's a good chance I wouldn't use it. So I might as well throw it in.
So you get a box from Misfits.
I get the Misfits Market Box. There is a discount for you. If you go to www.eatingwithcheferic.com and look at my favorite tools and ingredients, you will see a couple of things that have discounts included, including one on the base model or the base refrigerator from the Steak Ager. GC5 gets you 5% off your order, just on the refrigerator though. So.
Oh, anyway, that's why you end up with so many leftover vegetables. That
yes.
You're okay with that. And
totally. All right, so could smell the dry aged flavor from that. So we're gonna come back to the stove.
Okay. As I'm walking over there, I'll say that Jared's out there. He's doing a ribeye for 45.
Nice.
And Wagyu, and a brisket for 60.
Yes, I saw that on the group.
And he's going to try making the tallow in the stock.
Awesome. Yeah, so this is the kind of recipe, like, doing this event. I don't think I put this much thought into making the beef stock before. I just come in the morning, I open my thing, I cut stuff up, throw it in, you know, in 10 minutes I'm off having my morning cigar, you know what I mean? All right, let me put this on. I'm going to throw all these vegetables.
And again, that's cooking in the beef tallow that you got over here.
So if you did not roast your pellicle, if you didn't roast your pellicle like I did, you can do your pellicle first and then do the vegetables in the pellicle, you know, in the fat that comes out of it. Nice.
How many subprimals do you think that you use? That's a question from Gretchen.
For this amount of pellicle, it's probably, I opened 3 big bags, so it's probably 3 or 4 sessions, dry aging sessions. So I might have, one was a really big bag, so I might have opened it and put extra in. All right, so I'm cranking this because I want to get some color on these vegetables. All right, and at this point, I'm going to add my handful of peppercorns. Just throw them in there, I don't need that many. And, oh yeah, I got my dried shiitake mushrooms. Those are in. I'm going to put in a couple of fresh bay leaves, maybe 3. And if that weren't enough, I gotta get my parsley. Grab a bunch, stems and all. Get it out of here. That. Cut it up. Get this on there. Take a look.
Yep. Coming over.
I can see that onion is getting a color. You can break the stuff up. So you want to get this stuff softened. You know, the onions definitely break up because they take up the most space. And on high. It's really quite simple, as you can see.
And about how long does that roast before you add in the pellicle?
Just until you got some nice color on it. I mean, there's no specific time. The more color that you add to the vegetables and the meat, the darker the stock will be. But stay with me because I want to talk about the water. I want you to see when I add the water,
because whenever you make stock, there's always the danger of adding too much water, and then you get a diluted stock, and you can reduce it down, but it's still never as good as if you add the proper amount of water. So I'm a big fan of adding water just till it's covered. Then as it cooks, if you need to add more water, add it in smaller increments during the cook. Add a little more tallow. So you can see the leafy stuff is starting to get soft. The vegetables, like even my dried shiitakes, are coming back to life.
Right now you don't have any water. Right?
No water. All the juices that are in there are from the vegetables. Light off, it looks better.
Yep.
Alright, good. Any other questions?
I'm holding the camera, I can't tell.
Alright, so look at the bottom of the pot. You can see browning happening on the bottom of the pot here.
Yep.
That's fond. That's what you want. That's all the sugars from the vegetables starting to caramelize, and that is going to add a lot of flavor. Alright, I think we're going to turn our volume down there a little bit. We're going to start adding our pellicle. Let's see if I can do it without dumping it all over the place. I'm going to add this in, and I'm about to go commando and switch to my hands. How many big pieces you could cut them up, whatever. I mean, look at this, beautiful. That is going to make for great beef stock. And all those ends that we cut off. Nice. So I roasted these 450, like I said. Just keep checking it, turned it once or twice. What happens is, as the tallow renders out of it, it actually begins to fry a little bit in its oil. So you get really nice browning. And all these crispy bits, they will reconstitute. Wash my hands real quick.
From page 10, can you just roast the veggies as you do the pellicle to speed up the process?
You definitely could roast the vegetables in the oven, you know, on one tray and the pellicle on another. You definitely want to be able to stir everything up. Or if you're only doing a small batch, you can do it on one tray. Not a problem.
And you can do this in any amount.
Yeah. It's just, you know, it's the bigger the amount, the longer you can let it simmer. You know, because if it's too small, you know, it'll simmer away to nothing. So I would recommend doing at least a few agings worth of pellicle.
Because that smells amazing, and that's what
Oh, it really does.
we get that beautiful smell from roasted vegetables, and then that dry aging smell.
Yeah, just roast, when this was roasting in the oven, the pellicle, my God, amazing. Wish I could bottle that smell. Yeah, because you gotta remember, this is the part of the subfrontal that holds most of the dry flavor, is that pellicle and whatever fat is on here. All right, so there we go. Look at that. That looks beautiful to me. Now, we're gonna add some water. So here I've got, I don't know, little over 6 quarts. Probably going to need more. So this is a big pot. Do a little bit more.
So you use about 4 quarts?
Yeah, about 5 quarts I'm putting in here. Now we're going to crank it. Now we want to not walk away because we don't want this really to boil. And what I like to do is, for the first hour or so, I'm going to cook it with the lid on. Because I really want to get everything soft. And then once, about an hour and a half, 2 hours, I'll take the lid off and then I'll begin the reduction process. And that's where, you know, every 45 minutes or an hour, I'll come and check the water level and add some more water and, you know, do it that way. So typically, I don't want to add any salt to this at all, because what's going to happen is it's going to reduce and it'll get too salty if I salt it now. So I'm going to let this become, I'm going to let this, you know, let the vegetables and the pellicle give up everything that they have. And then I'll strain it out, and then I will season. Or I will just leave it unsalted because, again, versatility, you know. I want to be able to control the amount of salt in a dish. And if I put something that's, you know, some salty stock in there, you know, I lose some of that control. So I will typically leave this unsalted. And you'll see as some of the vegetables and the meat kind of soaks the water in, you're going to want to add some more water. In fact, I think I just know by experience that if I add this water, it's not too much. And that's pretty much the process of making dry aged beef stock. Again, don't let this boil. You want just before it comes to a boil, and you'll turn it down to a simmer, and you'll just let it lightly bubble for as many hours as you want to go. You know, what time is it? It's 11:30 now.
11:33.
So if I go to 10 o'clock tonight, or you know, that'll be almost 10 hours,
Yeah.
12 hours. That would be fine. So that's it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I enjoyed making it, and hopefully I showed you how easy it is to make dry aged beef stock. And what I'll do is I'll take some photos along the way. I will make a post on the Steak Ager family group so you can see the process after it's cooked for a while, after it's strained out, and then when I put it into the containers. What I use typically are these containers. I buy these at Restaurant Depot, or when you do takeout, you know, you save them. And so these are pints, and then I've got the quart ones. Usually I'll do a couple of quarts, maybe 2 quarts. The rest I'll do pints, because this is 2 cups. So if I'm making a pan sauce, I don't need to defrost an entire quart. Yes, Lynn?
I know you were just talking about storing it, and I was reading, so I wasn't really paying attention.
Okay.
Did you answer a question? It was from Abe K. Can you store Pellicle in the fridge, or should I freeze it, cryo, and freeze?
I cryo and freeze. So vacuum seal it, and then put it in the freezer. It'll last indefinitely. And then what I did was, before I took it out of the freezer, maybe 2 days ago, I put it in the fridge, let it defrost, and then when I put it on my tray here, I broke it up into, you know, into the pieces, and that was it. You could, you know, because when you freeze it in the cryovac, my spatula, when you did in the cryovac, obviously it's going to be one giant hunk. You're not going to really want to put that into a pot. All right, so I'm going to attempt to get this tallow into.
Can you turn the light off, rather? That works.
I'm going to, because it is solidified, I'm going to put it into a pot. and then I will remelt it, and then I will strain it in my little strainer.
It's actually a lot more than I thought it was.
Uh-oh, made a mess. Yeah, this produced a lot of tallow. And then the tallow, I've seen guys put it into like ice cube trays and freeze it. Should we do that?
Yeah.
All right, we'll do that. I was going to put it in a glass jar, but I've got a couple in my refrigerator already. So we'll try making that chunks.
Okay, so let's say you've thrown it in the freezer, it's in an ice cube tray. You just take it out
Yep.
as you need it.
Take it out and put it right into a pan and let the pan melt it.
I know when you've done beef demi-glaze before, you've done the ice cube tray thing.
Yeah.
And you took it out of the ice cube tray and put it in a little bin. Would you do the same thing, or do you just leave this in an ice cube tray?
Put a man down. Fix that burner.
Yep.
Anyway, this, melt this down. Oops. Do we have the ice cube tray? Didn't we buy? Okay. So let me get my ice cube tray, Mr. Shorty.
This is what I missed it. He had to use the claw to go grab it off the top shelf.
Yeah. So you can see, if you want to take a look at this beef tallow,
Coming over.
it melts really quickly.
And it's nice and golden.
Yeah, see, that's that liquid gold we talk about. Look at that, gorgeous. You can see I do have some bits of meat in there.
Will you strain it first?
I'm going to strain it. But look at that, see that massive tallow in there? It just melts so quickly. Look at that beautiful color. Beautiful. The smell of that. So, Mr. Jared, if you're still with us, take this, let it come to room temperature before it solidifies, and inject your brisket. An unaged brisket. This way, because brisket is a smaller cut, thinner, I should say, and sometimes you will have to cut a lot off of it. But if you want to get a full pack of brisket and then use this beef tallow and inject it, you'll have the whole brisket, nothing to cut off except some of the fat, like you normally would, and then you'll have that dry aged beef flavor inside. Ready?
Yep, I'm ready.
So again, I'm running this through a little cheesecloth.
And there's a little sieve underneath the cheesecloth too.
And a little sieve underneath the cheesecloth. Yeah, a little bit more than I thought. So the cheesecloth is really going to catch those bits. Nice. Look at that. How beautiful is that? Liquid gold. So let's see if I can, I don't know how well these pour, but we'll find out. Oh, beautifully. Along this way. I'm going to say that each one of these cubes will be a tablespoon. Does that sound about right?
Maybe a little more?
Maybe a little more. Tablespoon and a half. Okay, put in our rest. Yeah, this is where a lot of the sediment is in the bottom. You can see it here. that sediment that the cheesecloth has captured.
Nice.
So it's not in our tallow. Beautiful. And you get a full tray here.
Almost.
Yeah. And there you go. That'll go in the, you can put it in the refrigerator first and let it solidify and then throw it in the freezer. Whatever works. Let's get back to our stock here, see where we're at. It's getting there.
If you guys could only smell what this, it's outstanding.
It's beautiful.
You know that smell when you walk into a really good steakhouse?
Like, you know they have dry aged beef.
The wall smell.
Yeah.
Just awesome.
That is awesome. All right. So again, getting this to just before it boils. Getting there. This is a 25,000 BTU burner, so it should happen really quickly. And that's it. So we've talked about the dry aged beef stock. We talked about some tallow a little bit. Talked about being able to empty out your vegetable drawer. So again, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. We're constantly making them. Hopefully you see my cooking show every Wednesday night. Sometimes I do it on the Steak Ager family group if it pertains to dry aged beef. Other weeks, you know, it's always on the Grateful Chef with Eric Eisenbud Facebook group. Join it. You'll be notified when these videos come live on Wednesday nights. Almost every Wednesday night I do a cooking video. And don't forget our website, www.eatingwithcheferic.com. Yes, Lynn?
Sorry to interrupt your closing, but I love Gretchen's question. So she came back with, how much longer does it need to reduce to make demi-glaze?
So it's kind of, you got to go by feel. So once you get this to the point where we've extracted all the flavor out of the pellicle and out of the vegetables, and we're at that point where we're comfortable straining it out because they're not going to give us any more, strain it out. Then you can put it back. Then you can put that liquid into a smaller pot, and you want to reduce that down maybe 30 to 50%, right? Then you can take that liquid, put it into an even smaller pot, and keep doing that process. I mean, I've done, I don't know, 6 or 8 quarts like this, and gotten a cup and a half to 2 cups of demi-glaze.
Wow, is it good?
And it's amazing. So you can do that. You can if you make a big enough batch, you can do it with a portion of your beef stock and make a small batch of demi-glaze. But I find it's really helpful to have it around, so if I want to make a quick pan sauce, put it in there.
Okay, I'm going to take one last peek at what you're doing over there.
Okay, you can see starting to get a little foam at the top. You can skim that off if you'd like. I'm going to let it get a little warmer before I do. And yeah, oh, it smells good already. The main smell I have is onions. Let me move this out of your way.
Thank you.
Imagine if I put this on the marble, it will cool off. And so that being said, I told you about Grateful Chef with Eric Eisenbud group for weekly Facebook Lives, Wednesday night, 7 o'clock. I told you about our website. I got a YouTube channel too, Grateful Chef. You can check all that out. I'm grateful for you guys. Happy Valentine's Day. Love is in the air. We don't need a special day to tell the people we love them. Tell them all the time.
I love you, babe.
I love you. Wind beneath my wings. And feel free to reach out to me, private message, through Facebook, whatever. If you have any culinary questions, I'll be happy to answer them. And certainly any questions about the Steak Ager, feel free to reach out. And as always, be well, eat well, and be kind. And we'll see you on the next Grateful Chef Steak Ager video. Peace.